In the bitter cold of winter 1942, Warsaw was a city caught in the throes of despair and oppression. The streets, once vibrant with life, were now shadowed by the presence of Nazi soldiers, their uniforms a stark reminder of the brutal occupation that had begun in September 1939. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and fear, as families struggled to survive under the weight of food shortages and relentless persecution. Yet, amid this bleak landscape, a remarkable story of resilience and ingenuity was unfolding, one that would defy the very foundations of the Nazi regime. The German authorities, in their quest to maintain control and project an image of benevolence, established relief kitchens throughout Warsaw. These kitchens were intended to serve the starving populace, providing meager rations to those who had lost everything. However, unbeknownst to the occupiers, these kitchens were not merely instruments of charity, they were becoming vital hubs for the Polish underground state, a burgeoning network of resistance fighters determined to reclaim their homeland. As citizens lined up for their daily portion of soup and bread, they were not just seeking sustenance, they were participating in a covert operation that would challenge the very authority of the Nazis. The kitchens, managed by individuals with ties to the resistance, became places of clandestine meetings, where plans for rebellion were whispered and strategies for survival were devised. The irony was palpable. The Germans, in their arrogance, had unwittingly created the conditions for resistance to flourish. The winter of 1942 was particularly harsh, with temperatures plummeting and snow blanketing the city. Yet, the spirit of the Polish people remained unbroken. The relief kitchens, far from being mere symbols of oppression, became beacons of hope. They provided not only food but also a sense of community and solidarity among those who dared to defy the occupiers. When the war raged on, these kitchens would play a crucial role in Poland's fight for freedom, their true purpose hidden in plain sight. To understand the significance of the relief kitchens in Warsaw, one must first grasp the broader context of the Nazi occupation of Poland. Following the invasion in September 1939, the German military swiftly dismantled the Polish state, imposing a brutal regime that sought to eradicate Polish culture and identity. The Jewish population, in particular, faced horrific persecution, culminating in the establishment of the Warsaw Ghetto in 1940, where thousands were confined to squalid conditions and starvation. By the time the war progressed, the situation for the Polish people grew increasingly dire. Food shortages became commonplace, exacerbated by the German authorities' systematic plundering of resources. The rationing system was designed to favor German soldiers and officials, leaving the local population to fend for themselves. In this environment of scarcity, the relief kitchens emerged as a lifeline for many, albeit one shrouded in irony. The kitchens were strategically located throughout Warsaw, often in areas where the need was greatest. They were run by a mix of volunteers, including former military personnel, teachers, and healthcare workers, all of whom shared a common goal: to support the resistance while providing for their fellow citizens. The kitchens operated under the guise of compliance, adhering to the regulations set forth by the occupiers while simultaneously facilitating acts of defiance. Behind the scenes, the kitchens became integral to the logistics of the Polish underground. They served as meeting points for resistance fighters, where information could be exchanged and plans could be made without drawing the attention of the Gestapo. The network of kitchens was carefully coordinated, with each location connected to a larger web of resistance that spanned the city. This clandestine operation was marked by a delicate balance of trust and secrecy, as individuals risked their lives to support the fight against the Nazis. Geographically, Warsaw was a city of contrasts. The Old Town, with its historic architecture, stood in stark juxtaposition to the modern developments that had sprung up in the early 20th century. The Vistula River bisected the city, serving as both a physical barrier and a symbol of division. The relief kitchens were often situated in residential neighborhoods, where the need for food was most acute. They became community centers, fostering a sense of solidarity among the beleaguered population. Daily life in Warsaw during the occupation was a constant struggle for survival. Families faced the harsh reality of rationing, with meager allowances barely enough to sustain them. The relief kitchens provided a crucial source of nourishment, but they also offered a space for people to gather, share news, and maintain a semblance of normalcy amidst the chaos. The kitchens became places where laughter could still be heard, where stories were exchanged, and where hope flickered like a candle in the darkness. By the time the Polish underground state began to take shape, the relief kitchens evolved into vital components of the resistance movement. They were not merely places to receive food, they became the beating heart of a network that sought to undermine the Nazi regime from within. The kitchens facilitated the distribution of weapons, information, and supplies, all while maintaining the facade of compliance that kept them safe from the watchful eyes of the Gestapo. The ingenuity of the Polish people was evident in the way they adapted to the challenges posed by occupation. The kitchens operated under constant threat, yet their staff displayed remarkable resourcefulness. They devised methods to conceal weapons and documents, often hiding them in plain sight, disguised as everyday kitchen supplies. This level of creativity and determination was a testament to the resilience of a population that refused to be subjugated. During the winter of 1942 gave way to the spring of 1943, the significance of the relief kitchens became increasingly apparent. They were not just places of sustenance, they were symbols of defiance, embodying the spirit of a people determined to resist oppression. The kitchens represented a collective effort to reclaim agency in a world turned upside down by war, and they would continue to play a pivotal role in the unfolding narrative of resistance in Warsaw. The dual purpose of the relief kitchens, providing food while facilitating resistance, underscored the complexity of life under occupation. The kitchens became microcosms of the broader struggle for freedom, where the lines between survival and rebellion blurred. As the Polish underground grew more organized and sophisticated, the kitchens would remain at the forefront of this clandestine movement, their true significance hidden from the very authorities that sought to control them. By 1943, the activities of the Polish underground had grown increasingly bold, drawing the attention of the Gestapo, the feared secret police of Nazi Germany. The Gestapo, tasked with rooting out resistance and maintaining order, intensified their surveillance of Warsaw, casting a wide net in their search for subversive activities. The relief kitchens, while ostensibly under German supervision, operated with a level of autonomy that allowed them to continue their covert operations. The Gestapo's presence in Warsaw was palpable, their agents a constant reminder of the oppressive regime under which the city labored. They were vigilant, suspicious of any activity that deviated from their strict regulations. Yet, despite their efforts, the true purpose of the relief kitchens eluded them. The kitchens, with their carefully crafted facade of compliance, continued to operate under the radar, their dual purpose hidden in plain sight. The tension in the city was palpable, a constant undercurrent of fear and uncertainty that permeated every aspect of daily life. For the staff of the relief kitchens, this tension was a constant companion, a reminder of the risks they faced in their clandestine activities. The Gestapo's vigilance meant that any misstep could result in discovery, arrest, or worse. Despite the ever-present threat, the kitchens continued to function, their operators undeterred by the danger. They understood the importance of their work, the vital role they played in sustaining the resistance. The kitchens were more than just places of sustenance, they were symbols of defiance, a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of the Polish people. The confrontation between the Gestapo and the hidden network of the relief kitchens was a battle of wits, a game of cat and mouse played out in the shadowy streets of Warsaw. The Gestapo, with their vast resources and ruthless efficiency, were formidable adversaries. Yet, the kitchens, with their network of dedicated individuals, managed to stay one step ahead, their operations continuing unabated. As the year progressed, the Gestapo's presence in Warsaw became more pronounced, their efforts to root out resistance intensifying. The tension in the city reached a boiling point, the atmosphere charged with anticipation and dread. The staff of the relief kitchens knew that the stakes were high, that their actions could mean the difference between life and death for countless individuals. In the face of this mounting pressure, the kitchens continued to operate, their hidden network a testament to the power of human resilience and ingenuity. The confrontation with the Gestapo was a battle fought in the shadows, a struggle for survival that would ultimately shape the course of the resistance movement in Warsaw. The Gestapo's methods were ruthless and calculated. They employed a range of tactics to infiltrate and dismantle the resistance. Informants were planted within communities, and the threat of violence loomed large over anyone suspected of harboring dissent. The atmosphere of fear was pervasive, yet it also served to galvanize the resolve of those who operated the kitchens. They knew that their work was not just about feeding people, it was about sustaining hope in a city where hope was in short supply. Among the staff of the kitchens, there were individuals who had lost loved ones to the Gestapo's brutality. These personal losses fueled their determination to resist. They understood that every bowl of soup served was an act of defiance, a small rebellion against the forces that sought to crush their spirit. The kitchens became sanctuaries of solidarity, where stories of loss and resilience were shared, and plans for future actions were quietly discussed. One of the most significant figures in this underground movement was a woman named Maria Kowalska. A former teacher, Maria had dedicated herself to the resistance after witnessing the arrest of her husband, a soldier in the Polish army. She became a key organizer within the relief kitchen network, using her skills to coordinate efforts and ensure that the kitchens remained operational despite the increasing scrutiny of the Gestapo. Maria's leadership was characterized by her ability to inspire those around her. She understood the importance of maintaining morale among the staff and the patrons of the kitchens. Her charisma and unwavering commitment to the cause drew others to her side, creating a tight-knit community of individuals willing to risk everything for the sake of their country. As the Gestapo's scrutiny intensified, Maria and her team devised new strategies to evade detection. They implemented rotating schedules for kitchen staff, ensuring that no single person was present for too long. They also established a system of coded messages to communicate with other resistance cells, allowing them to share vital information without raising suspicion. The kitchens became hubs of intelligence gathering, where information about Gestapo movements and operations was exchanged. Resistance fighters would come in disguise, posing as patrons seeking food, while discreetly passing along crucial updates. The staff, trained to recognize the signs of danger, remained vigilant, always on the lookout for any indication that their activities had been compromised. Despite their best efforts, the Gestapo's methods were relentless. They began to conduct raids on suspected locations, searching for evidence of resistance activity. The tension reached a fever pitch as rumors circulated of impending crackdowns. The kitchens operated under a shroud of anxiety, each day a gamble with fate. In one particularly harrowing incident, a raid on a nearby kitchen resulted in the arrest of several staff members. The news sent shockwaves through the network, a stark reminder of the risks they faced. Maria, however, refused to let fear dictate their actions. She rallied her team, emphasizing the importance of their mission and the need to continue their work despite the dangers. The resilience of the kitchen staff was tested time and again, but they remained steadfast. They understood that Norway's fight for freedom was not merely a physical battle, it was a struggle for the very soul of their nation. Each bowl of soup served was a reminder that they were still alive, still resisting, and still fighting for a future free from tyranny. As summer approached, the Gestapo's tactics evolved. They began to employ more sophisticated methods of surveillance, utilizing informants and technology to track the movements of suspected resistance members. The kitchens, no longer considered safe havens, faced an ever-growing threat. The atmosphere was charged with tension, but the spirit of defiance remained unbroken. In response to the escalating danger, Maria and her team took further precautions. They established safe houses throughout the city, where members of the resistance could seek refuge if necessary. These locations were carefully chosen, often in the homes of sympathetic citizens who understood the stakes involved. The network of kitchens expanded, creating a more intricate web of support for the resistance. The confrontation with the Gestapo was not just a battle for survival, it was a test of the human spirit. The kitchens became symbols of hope, representing the resilience of a people determined to resist oppression. Each act of defiance, no matter how small, contributed to the larger struggle for freedom. As the summer of 1943 wore on, the tension in Warsaw reached a breaking point. The Gestapo intensified their efforts, launching a series of coordinated raids on suspected resistance locations. The kitchens operated under a veil of secrecy. Staff members worked in shifts, their faces etched with worry as they navigated the ever-present threat of discovery. Despite the danger, the kitchens continued to serve as vital lifelines for the resistance. They provided not only food but also a sense of community and purpose. The bonds forged within the kitchens transcended the fear that permeated the city, creating a network of solidarity that would prove essential in the coming months. As the situation grew more dire, Maria and her team knew they had to adapt. They implemented new strategies to ensure the safety of their operations, including the use of decoy kitchens to divert attention from their main activities. The ingenuity of the staff shone through as they navigated the complexities of their clandestine work, always one step ahead of the Gestapo. The confrontation between the Gestapo and the Polish underground was a battle fought in the shadows, a struggle for survival that would ultimately shape the course of the resistance movement in Warsaw. The kitchens, with their hidden network of support, became symbols of hope and defiance, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. As the summer sun set over Warsaw, casting long shadows across the city, the kitchens continued to operate, their staff undeterred by the ever-present threat of discovery. They understood that their work was not just about feeding the hungry, it was about sustaining Poland's fight for freedom, a fight that would continue long after the last bowl of soup was served. As 1944 dawned, the atmosphere in Warsaw shifted. The relentless pressure exerted by the Gestapo had not extinguished the spirit of resistance. Rather, it had forged it into something fiercer and more determined. The Polish underground, buoyed by the successes of their covert operations, began to escalate their activities in anticipation of a broader uprising. The relief kitchens, now fully integrated into this strategy, would play a pivotal role in the unfolding events. The winter of 1943–1944 had been particularly harsh, but it had also served to galvanize the resolve of the Polish people. As the snow melted and spring approached, whispers of a coordinated uprising began to circulate among the resistance. The kitchens, once merely places of sustenance, transformed into strategic command centers, where plans for the Warsaw Uprising were meticulously crafted. Maria Kowalska, now a seasoned leader within the resistance, found herself at the forefront of this movement. Her experience and tenacity had earned her the respect of her peers, and she was determined to ensure that the kitchens would be instrumental in the upcoming struggle. The stakes were higher than ever, and the need for secrecy was paramount. In the months leading up to the uprising, the kitchens adapted their operations to meet the demands of the resistance. They began to stockpile supplies, not just food but also weapons and ammunition, preparing for the inevitable confrontation with the German forces. The network of kitchens expanded further, creating a more extensive web of support that would be crucial in the days to come. As the Polish underground prepared for the uprising, they faced a daunting challenge: coordinating a city-wide rebellion against one of the most formidable military forces in the world. The kitchens became hubs of communication, where information was exchanged and strategies were discussed. The staff, motivated by a shared vision of freedom, worked tirelessly to ensure that every detail was accounted for. The atmosphere in Warsaw was charged with anticipation. The Gestapo, still vigilant, remained unaware of the brewing storm. The kitchens, with their facade of normalcy, continued to operate, serving meals to those in need while simultaneously preparing for the fight of their lives. The resilience of the Polish people shone through, a beacon of hope in a city shrouded in darkness. As summer approached, the plans for the uprising solidified. The Polish underground set a date for the rebellion, a moment when they would rise against their oppressors and reclaim their city. The kitchens, integral to this plan, would serve as supply points for the resistance fighters, providing food, weapons, and medical assistance as the uprising unfolded. On August 1, 1944, the long-awaited moment arrived. The streets of Warsaw erupted in a cacophony of gunfire and shouts as the Polish underground launched their assault against the German forces. The kitchens, now fully operational as centers of resistance, sprang into action. Staff members worked tirelessly, distributing food and supplies to the fighters, ensuring that they were well equipped for the battle ahead. The initial days of the uprising were marked by fierce fighting and a palpable sense of determination. The Polish fighters, fueled by a desire for freedom, engaged the German forces with a tenacity that surprised their oppressors. The kitchens, serving as lifelines for the resistance, became symbols of hope and defiance, embodying the spirit of a people united in their struggle. However, the tide of war is often unpredictable. As the days turned into weeks, the German response grew increasingly brutal. The Wehrmacht, determined to crush the uprising, unleashed a wave of violence upon the city. The streets of Warsaw became battlegrounds, and the kitchens, once bustling with activity, found themselves under siege. Despite the overwhelming odds, the spirit of the resistance remained unbroken. The kitchens continued to operate, their staff working tirelessly to provide sustenance to the fighters and civilians alike. They became sanctuaries of hope, where people gathered to share stories of resilience and courage amid the chaos. As the situation in Warsaw deteriorated, the Polish underground faced a grim reality. The German forces, bolstered by reinforcements, began to encircle the city, cutting off vital supply lines. The kitchens, once thriving hubs of resistance, struggled to maintain their operations as resources dwindled. The resilience of the staff was tested as they navigated the challenges of scarcity and danger. In the face of adversity, Maria and her team refused to give in. They adapted their strategies, utilizing every resource at their disposal to keep the kitchens operational. They established secret routes for transporting supplies, relying on the ingenuity and bravery of their network to ensure that food and ammunition reached those who needed it most. As the weeks dragged on, the situation grew increasingly dire. The German forces intensified their attacks, and the resilience of the Polish fighters was pushed to its limits. The kitchens, no longer symbols of hope, faced the grim reality of a city under siege. Yet, even in the darkest moments, the spirit of resistance endured. The Polish underground, despite the overwhelming odds, continued to fight for their freedom. The kitchens remained operational, serving as vital lifelines for those who refused to surrender. The staff, driven by a shared commitment to their cause, worked tirelessly to ensure that the spirit of defiance remained alive. As the summer of 1944 came to a close, the uprising faced its most significant challenge yet. The German forces, determined to crush the resistance, unleashed a final assault on the city. The streets of Warsaw, once filled with the sounds of defiance, echoed with the sounds of destruction. In the face of this onslaught, the kitchens became symbols of resilience. They served as safe havens for those seeking refuge from the violence, providing food and support to those who had lost everything. The staff, undeterred by the chaos surrounding them, continued to operate, embodying the spirit of defiance that had fueled the resistance from the beginning. As the uprising neared its conclusion, the kitchens remained steadfast in their commitment to the cause. They became symbols of hope, representing the resilience of a people unwilling to surrender their fight for freedom. The spirit of the Polish underground endured, even in the face of overwhelming odds. The final days of the uprising were marked by desperation and determination. The kitchens, now operating under extreme duress, continued to serve as lifelines for the resistance. The staff, driven by a shared vision of freedom, worked tirelessly to ensure that the spirit of defiance remained alive. As the dust settled over the ruins of Warsaw, the enduring legacy of the relief kitchens and the Polish underground would endure. The kitchens, once mere places of sustenance, had transformed into beacons of resistance, embodying the unwavering determination of a people fighting for their freedom. In the aftermath of the uprising, the kitchens would continue to serve as reminders of the resilience of the Polish people. Their legacy would inspire future generations to remember the sacrifices made in the name of freedom and to honor the spirit of defiance that had defined their struggle. While the war raged on, the account of the relief kitchens would become intertwined with the larger narrative of resistance in occupied Europe. They would stand as a testament to the power of community, the strength of solidarity, and the indomitable spirit of a people who refused to be silenced. The kitchens, once overlooked by the Gestapo, had become symbols of hope and resilience, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit could prevail. Their legacy would endure, a testament to the power of resistance and the unwavering commitment to freedom. As the spring of 1943 approached, the tension in Warsaw reached a critical juncture. The Gestapo's relentless pursuit of the Polish underground intensified, leading to a series of brutal crackdowns that would have devastating consequences for both the resistance and the civilian population. In April 1943, the situation escalated dramatically with the onset of the Warsaw Ghetto uprising. The Jewish population, long subjected to the horrors of the Nazi regime, rose in defiance against their oppressors. This act of rebellion was not just a desperate fight for survival, it was a powerful statement of resistance against the systematic extermination of their people. The uprising, though ultimately doomed, galvanized the spirit of resistance throughout Warsaw and beyond. The relief kitchens, which had previously served as vital lifelines for both the Jewish community and the Polish underground, now faced an existential threat. The Gestapo, in their effort to quash the uprising, ramped up their operations, conducting mass arrests and executing suspected collaborators. The kitchens, once overlooked by the occupiers, became targets of suspicion. The very places that had provided sustenance and hope were now under siege, caught in the crossfire of a brutal conflict. As the uprising unfolded, the staff of the relief kitchens were faced with harrowing moral dilemmas. They had to navigate the treacherous waters of loyalty and survival, weighing the risks of continuing their operations against the potential consequences of discovery. Many chose to remain steadfast in their commitment to the resistance, understanding that their actions could mean life or death for those they served. They became conduits of hope, delivering food and supplies to those trapped in the ghetto, even as the walls closed in around them. The consequences of the uprising reverberated throughout Warsaw. The Gestapo's response was swift and merciless. In their quest to restore order, they unleashed a wave of terror that swept through the city. The relief kitchens, once symbols of defiance, were now seen as potential hotbeds of insurrection. Many were raided, their operators arrested, tortured, or executed. The atmosphere of fear became palpable, as neighbors turned against one another, driven by the desperation to survive in an increasingly hostile environment. Yet, even in the face of such brutality, the spirit of resistance endured. The kitchens continued to serve as meeting points for the underground, albeit under even more perilous conditions. The network of resistance fighters adapted to the heightened risks, employing new tactics to evade detection. They utilized coded messages, disguised deliveries, and secret rendezvous to maintain their operations, all while the specter of the Gestapo loomed ever closer. The turning point of the Warsaw Ghetto uprising marked a profound shift in the dynamics of resistance in the city. It was a moment that crystallized the resolve of the Polish underground, galvanizing support among the civilian population. The bravery displayed by the Jewish fighters inspired many to join the cause, recognizing that the fight against oppression was a collective struggle that transcended ethnic and religious boundaries. However, the uprising also highlighted the severe consequences of resistance. The brutal reprisals that followed served as a grim reminder of the stakes involved. The Gestapo's campaign of terror left deep scars on the community, as families were torn apart and lives extinguished in the name of maintaining control. The relief kitchens, formerly beacons of hope, stood as stark reminders of the cost of defiance in a world consumed by violence and hatred. As the uprising was ultimately crushed, the consequences rippled through the fabric of Warsaw society. The loss of life was staggering, and the psychological toll on the survivors was profound. The kitchens, though battered and bruised, continued to operate, but the atmosphere of fear and uncertainty weighed heavily on their staff. They were acutely aware that their actions, formerly celebrated as acts of bravery, had carried the burden of loss and grief. In the aftermath of the uprising, the Polish underground faced a critical decision: to continue the fight against the Nazis or to retreat into the shadows, preserving their lives at the cost of their ideals. The relief kitchens, emblematic of this struggle, became symbols of resilience amid despair. They represented the unwavering spirit of a people determined to resist, even in the face of overwhelming odds. The aftermath of the Warsaw Ghetto uprising marked a profound transformation within the resistance movement and the broader Polish society. The brutal suppression of the uprising by the Gestapo left a deep imprint on the collective consciousness of the Polish people. The once vibrant relief kitchens, which had served as lifelines for the underground, now bore the scars of violence and loss. Yet, from this devastation emerged a renewed sense of purpose and determination among the surviving members of the Polish underground. In the wake of the uprising, the Polish underground state adapted to the harsh new realities of occupation. The loss of life and the brutal tactics employed by the Gestapo necessitated a re-evaluation of strategies and operations. The relief kitchens, while still operational, underwent a transformation in their role within the resistance. They became more than just places of sustenance. They evolved into centers of intelligence gathering and coordination for the underground movement. The staff of the kitchens, many of whom had witnessed the horrors of the uprising firsthand, were resolute in their commitment to continue the fight. They understood that the struggle against the Nazis was far from over, and the need for solidarity and support among the resistance was more critical than ever. The kitchens began to serve as hubs for disseminating information about Gestapo movements, organizing escape routes for those in danger, and providing medical assistance to the wounded. The transformation of the relief kitchens mirrored the broader evolution of the Polish underground. During the war dragged on, the resistance became increasingly organized and sophisticated. New alliances were forged, and the network of underground fighters expanded, drawing in individuals from various backgrounds who shared a common goal: to liberate Poland from the grip of Nazi tyranny. However, the aftermath of the uprising also brought with it a heavy toll. The psychological scars left by the violence were profound, and the sense of loss permeated every aspect of life in Warsaw. Families mourned the loved ones who had perished, and the community grappled with the reality of betrayal and fear. The kitchens stood as reminders of the sacrifices made in the name of resistance. Despite the challenges, the spirit of resilience endured. The kitchens continued to operate, adapting to the changing landscape of the war. They became places of refuge for those seeking solace in the midst of chaos, offering not only food but also a sense of community and belonging. The staff worked tirelessly, often risking their lives to ensure that those in need were cared for, embodying the very essence of the Polish spirit. During the war progressed, the relief kitchens played an increasingly vital role in the resistance's efforts to undermine the Nazi regime. They became integral to the logistics of the underground movement, facilitating the movement of supplies, weapons, and information. The kitchens were no longer just places of sustenance. They had transformed into critical nodes in a vast network of resistance that spanned the city. The aftermath of the uprising also saw a shift in public perception. The bravery displayed by the Jewish fighters during the uprising resonated deeply within the Polish community, fostering a sense of unity and shared purpose. The kitchens, which had once served primarily the Polish population, began to extend their reach to include Jewish individuals and families who had survived the initial wave of violence. This act of solidarity was a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. As the war continued, the relief kitchens became symbols of hope and defiance, embodying the unwavering commitment of the Polish people to resist oppression. They stood as beacons of light in a darkened world, reminding all who entered of the power of community and the strength that comes from standing together against tyranny. In the years that followed, the enduring legacy of the relief kitchens would be etched into the collective memory of the Polish people. They would be remembered not only for the sustenance they provided but for the courage and resilience they represented. The kitchens became emblematic of the struggle for freedom, a testament to the indomitable spirit of a people who refused to be silenced. As the conflict neared the relief kitchens would ultimately stand as a reminder of the sacrifices made in the name of resistance. They would serve as a symbol of hope for future generations, a testament to the power of unity and the enduring strength of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity. As the conflict neared in 1944, the city of Warsaw lay in ruins, a testament to the brutal conflict that had ravaged Poland. The Warsaw Uprising, which erupted in August of that year, was a desperate bid for freedom against the Nazi occupiers. Although ultimately unsuccessful, it marked a pivotal moment in Polish history, and the enduring legacy of the resistance, particularly the role of the relief kitchens, would resonate for generations to come. The relief kitchens, which had once served as clandestine hubs of resistance, became symbols of hope and resilience in the aftermath of the war. As the dust settled and the reality of post-war Poland began to take shape, the contributions of these kitchens were recognized not only for their role in sustaining the resistance, but also for their impact on the community during one of the darkest periods in Polish history. In the immediate aftermath of the war, Poland faced the daunting task of rebuilding a nation that had been devastated by years of occupation and conflict. The enduring legacy of the relief kitchens was woven into this narrative of recovery. Many of those who had operated the kitchens during the war emerged as community leaders, using their experiences and connections to help rebuild their neighborhoods and restore a sense of normalcy. The kitchens had not only provided food but had also fostered a spirit of cooperation and solidarity among the Polish people. This sense of community was crucial in the post-war years as individuals sought to reconnect with one another and rebuild their lives. The networks established during the war continued to function, albeit in a different capacity, as former resistance members worked together to address the pressing needs of their communities. In the years that followed, the Polish government, now under communist control, sought to reshape the narrative of the war and the resistance. While the official history often downplayed the role of the underground state and its various factions, the enduring legacy of the relief kitchens remained a powerful symbol of Polish resilience. The kitchens had demonstrated that even in the face of overwhelming oppression, the human spirit could prevail, and this message resonated deeply with the populace. As Poland transitioned into the post-war era, the contributions of the relief kitchens began to be recognized more formally. Memorials and commemorative events were established to honor those who had fought for freedom and those who had risked their lives to sustain the resistance. The kitchens, once seen as mere instruments of survival, were now celebrated as vital components of the Polish struggle for independence. In 1989, as Poland emerged from decades of communist rule, the enduring legacy of the relief kitchens gained renewed significance. The fall of communism opened the door for a more nuanced exploration of Poland's wartime history. Documentaries, books, and academic studies began to examine the role of the underground state and the resistance, including the critical contributions of the relief kitchens. One notable commemoration was the establishment of the Warsaw Uprising Museum in 2004, which sought to preserve the memory of the uprising and the broader resistance movement. The museum highlighted the role of the relief kitchens, showcasing their importance in providing not only sustenance but also a sense of community and hope during the darkest days of occupation. Through exhibitions, educational programs, and public events, the museum ensured that the enduring legacy of the kitchens would not be forgotten. The effect of the relief kitchens extended far beyond the immediate post-war years. They became emblematic of the Polish spirit, a reminder of the resilience and determination that characterized the nation during its darkest hours. The lessons learned from the kitchens and the broader resistance movement influenced subsequent generations, shaping the Polish identity and the collective memory of the war. In the decades following the war, the account of the relief kitchens served as a source of inspiration for various social movements in Poland. The values of solidarity, cooperation, and resistance against oppression became central tenets of Polish society. As the country navigated the challenges of the late 20th century, including the solidarity movement of the 1980s, the enduring legacy of the kitchens was invoked as a reminder of the power of collective action in the face of adversity. The kitchens also played a role in fostering a sense of national pride. The narrative of the Polish resistance, including the contributions of the relief kitchens, became a cornerstone of Polish history education. Schools began to incorporate these stories into their curricula, ensuring that future generations would understand the sacrifices made by their forebears and the importance of standing up against tyranny. The enduring legacy of the Warsaw relief kitchens transcended national borders, resonating with those engaged in struggles for freedom and justice around the world. The account of the kitchens became a powerful symbol of resistance against oppression, demonstrating that even in the direst circumstances, communities could come together to support one another and fight for their rights. Internationally, the narrative of the Polish underground state and the relief kitchens inspired activists and movements in various contexts. The principles of solidarity and mutual aid, exemplified by the kitchens, became central themes in social justice movements, emphasizing the importance of community support in the face of systemic oppression. The kitchens also served as a reminder of the complexities of war and resistance. They highlighted the often overlooked contributions of ordinary citizens in the fight against tyranny. This recognition of grassroots efforts became increasingly important in contemporary discussions about resistance movements, as activists sought to draw parallels between their struggles and those of the past. The enduring legacy of the Warsaw relief kitchens is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity. They served as vital lifelines during one of the darkest chapters in Polish history, providing sustenance, hope, and a sense of community to those living under Nazi occupation. Their role in the resistance movement exemplified the power of ordinary individuals to effect change, even in the most challenging circumstances. As Poland continues to navigate its identity in the modern world, the enduring legacy of the relief kitchens remains a poignant reminder of the strength and determination of the Polish people. The kitchens symbolize not only the fight against oppression but also the enduring spirit of cooperation and solidarity that defines the nation. In commemorating the contributions of the relief kitchens, Poland honors the sacrifices of those who fought for freedom and ensures that their stories are passed down through generations. The kitchens stand as a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can prevail, and that the fight for justice and dignity is a legacy worth preserving. In the bitter cold of winter 1942, Warsaw was a city caught in the throes of despair and oppression. The streets, once vibrant with life, were now shadowed by the presence of Nazi soldiers, their uniforms a stark reminder of the brutal occupation that had begun in September 1939. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and fear, as families struggled to survive under the weight of food shortages and relentless persecution. Yet, amid this bleak landscape, a remarkable story of resilience and ingenuity was unfolding, one that would defy the very foundations of the Nazi regime. The German authorities, in their quest to maintain control and project an image of benevolence, established relief kitchens throughout Warsaw. These kitchens were intended to serve the starving populace, providing meager rations to those who had lost everything. However, unbeknownst to the occupiers, these kitchens were not merely instruments of charity, they were becoming vital hubs for the Polish underground state, a burgeoning network of resistance fighters determined to reclaim their homeland. As citizens lined up